Hello and welcome to TVP World. My name is Jakub Karnowski and we record at Ukraine Recovery Conference, a big gathering of heads of state and heads of government which is taking place in Gdańsk, where Polish-Ukrainian cooperation is a big topic. And on that topic, I would like to welcome in the studio Jakub Karnowski, CEO of Kredobank.
Hello.
Hello and welcome. Kredobank is one of the 15 biggest financial institutions in Ukraine, and it is a wholly owned subsidiary of PKO BP, which is the biggest Polish retail bank. So in a way, it's a very special venture from the perspective of Polish banking sector, which historically has been quite conservative, may I say, when it comes to foreign expansion. But Kredobank, there it is, fully functioning bank in Ukraine. If you were to tell people about how to do banking business in Ukraine, what would you like to share?
Well, we are really indeed the fully Ukrainian bank. We are not the Polish bank. We are a bank which is named by our regulator, which is National Bank of Ukraine, a systematically important bank. This is a group of 15 banks in Ukraine. And we are owned by PKO Bank Polski, which is larger than the entire banking sector in Ukraine. I agree that historically the banking
PKO BP itself. In terms of assets, is bigger than this.
Yes, that's around 25% of the banking sector in Poland, but it's more than the entire banking sector in Ukraine. So it shows the scale. At the same time, we know that PKO Bank Polski, the largest controlled by the government, partially privatized bank, is not very historically active outside of Poland, let's say. And when we look around Poland, we have small European Union countries like Czechia or Slovak Republic, Germany, which is quite difficult to enter in terms of the banking sector.
And it's even difficult to enter for banks from Italy, for example, as we've seen very recently, right?
Correct. Or we have hostile countries like Russia or Belarus, and we have Ukraine, which, we now, PKO Bank Polski is present in Ukraine for 20 years already. Our bank, Kredobank, is 35 years old. 20 years plus as a part of PKO Bank Polski Group. So Ukraine is a typical, the only, as I tried to prove, the only country of potential expansion for PKO Bank Polski. And where we are...
I think one Austrian banking group would disagree. However, I understand the logic.
Ukraine is in war. We know it for sure. Unfortunately, we know it very well. We are in the middle of the 5th year of war, full-scale war in Ukraine. And of course, banking in Ukraine during the times of war is not easy. At the same time, I think that there is an analogy between banking sector and traditional war, the military thing, because if we go back in time 5 years ago and we think about where Ukraine can be, assuming there will be a war which happened, the Ukrainian military is not doing bad, let's say. I mean, they are not losing the war for sure, especially now with the drone defensive technologies, and not just defensive, offensive as well. We saw Petersburg, we saw Moscow, we saw Russian military targets also in the outside east of Ural. When we think about the monetary policy of Ukraine and the banking sector of Ukraine, I believe that we are also doing much better than anyone would have expected before the war. Inflation in Ukraine is smaller by few percentage points than the same in Russia, the inflation in Russia. Banking sector is doing very well. Last year we brought more than 150 million Polish zlotys net profit to our owner in Poland. So basically we are doing business in these extreme conditions of war, which we are feeling well, good with that. I mean, don't want to say that we are proud of it, but because of the war, it's nothing to be proud of, but we're doing relatively well.
Okay. So we're sitting at Ukraine Recovery Conference, right? Reconstruction, and of course when it comes to reconstruction, everyone talks about financing, and when it comes to financing stuff in Ukraine, people from the banking sector tell us that it's very difficult. So if a Polish company approaches a Polish bank and tells them, listen, I would like to do some business in Ukraine, for example, some greenfield investment, the possibility of them obtaining an ordinary credit is near zero. Some state guarantees need to be involved, and then the banks say, okay, you've managed to de-risk this investment, now we're okay with lending you money. But for you guys, the situation has to be like totally different because you already operate on Ukrainian market with Ukrainian companies as your customers, right?
The reality is that we do not have many newcomers to the Ukrainian market right now. So we are serving the customers we already served before the war, and we've been serving them since the beginning of the full-scale war. So basically, our clients are around 75% of the Polish companies who operate in Ukraine are our customers. 3/4 of the population, we have the privilege to serve them as the customers.
So a lot of your business comes from Polish companies venturing into Ukraine.
We are Ukrainian bank. We are not the Polish bank, but since we are the only bank with a Polish capital in Ukraine, and we are present, our headquarters is in Lviv, which is Western Ukraine. So basically, we consider ourselves as a bank which build bridges between Poland and Ukraine. So we serve 75% again of customers from Poland in Ukraine, but we also serve Ukrainian companies who prefer us because they have business in Poland. And we have just a regular Ukrainian customers who believe in us because we are a pravilny bank, which means the correct one, let's say.
Pravilny bank, very nice.
Pravilny bank.
And you even brought a report summarizing your activities and some of your partners,
the report,
right?
which was prepared for us about the SME growth engine in Ukraine. SME companies.
SME, small and medium enterprises.
Small and medium enterprises, because they are our traditional target. We do not serve large corporations because of our scale, but we are perfect bank for the small and medium sector in Ukraine. So this was published yesterday. Rzeczpospolita Daily wrote an executive summary out of it, but it's available on our website.
And from this report, what image emerges?
This is about the barriers which the small and medium enterprises face in growth in Ukraine, and brought solutions for these barriers as well.
Which one would you say is the most substantial one?
We have quite a lot, we call them FOPs in Ukraine, which is an equivalent of the one-man show in terms of entrepreneurs in Ukraine. At the same time, we discovered that there is a barrier between these very small enterprises, FOPs, which when they want to grow to the small and medium, but bigger in scale enterprises.
So coming from one-man operation to many people operation.
Yes, right? That's a huge barrier, and
it sounds like a universal problem, right?
It is. But Ukraine is special, and of course we have demography problems, very even bigger in Ukraine than elsewhere. Even though we know in Poland we also have a demographic issues. Democratic was before. That was, but yeah, that's.
When you talk to your clients, but mainly the ones from Poland, I understand these are companies that set up shop in Ukraine a long time before the full-scale invasion, or maybe just before the war. Do they expand despite the circumstances in Ukraine? Do you see, when you talk with Polish business community, are they interested into venturing into Ukraine, or are they afraid of war?
You are touching the major problem, which is the war itself. The fact that your physical investment, tangible investment might be attacked by the Russian drones and rockets. That's a major problem, because no one wants to risk the physical destruction of the investment, and this increases the political risk of the country. So
and the cost of capital.
At the cost of capital, everything. Of course, when you have high risk, you expect more in terms of return, and the whole business becomes more difficult to manage. We try to tackle this problem with the guarantees of the IFIs, international financial institutions. In 1 hour, I will sign another agreement with European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, 100 million euros, and we will use this money to guarantee our investments, especially to the companies which are next to the front lines. So those who are where the risk of physical destruction of the investment is the largest. And basically,
do agreements like this make your company being able to lend more?
Yes,
because it essentially acts as a de-risking mechanism, right?
That's true, and it allows us to not to increase our capital, all this ratio related with the capital involved in the capital requirements, correct. So basically, this is important from the scale of our investment, but coming back to your question, when we look at the war, and we are again, we know it's after 4.5 years of invasion, we observed various stages of war. We saw some optimism in 2023, but now investors are cautious. So again, we don't see too many investors coming into the new kids on the block coming into Ukraine. So we serve the old clients, but I expect full-scale reconstruction, recovery when there is a ceasefire and some effective guarantees from the Western world to Ukraine. More effective than the Budapest Memorandum.
Okay, right. I interviewed a banking executive from Poland a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that, contrary to some popular misconceptions, banking industry in Ukraine is actually very, very advanced when it comes to technology, very digitalized, very competitive. What's your take on that?
I fully agree. I mean, when we look at our applications, mobile applications, we are very advanced, even compared to the Polish market, which is not lagging behind the rest of Europe. Cybersecurity, that's an equivalent of the drone technology. We are subject of the massive Russian attacks, and much more than our mother company, for example, in Poland, is because we are living at in the war zone. So basically, in terms of cybersecurity, how to defend against it, we are really, really advanced. And banking sector in Ukraine is small, but in some dimensions, as the ones you mentioned, plus cybersecurity, we are really doing well. We are prepared.
Do you think you need to spend more on cybersecurity than your peers in European countries?
I think yes, effectively yes, especially in ratio related to our capitals. That's true. But for example, we can also use cybersecurity experts, usually the Ukrainian ones, those who are living outside of Ukraine because of the nature of that part of business.
Jakub Karnowski, CEO of Kredobank, in his own words, prawilny bank, true bank of Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And stay tuned for more coverage of TVP World from Ukrainian Recovery Conference. My name is Jakub Karnowski. Goodbye.